Here's a similar conversation. In New York right now for two kids, last year my child care was roughly 3 grand. It was like 2,900.
A
My
month.
daughter, yeah, my daughter went to Universal. My daughter went to Universal Pre-K this year, which is covered, and I think my payment this year went down to like 1,600, like almost cut in half. And I was talking to somebody who's paid off their mortgage, and then I debate with, well, a friend of mine that I debate with about it. And like I said, my mortgage is low, under 3%, and that's like the first crutch that I lean on. I
Hmm.
lean on the fact that I have a low interest rate and that I have a steady income, and the money doesn't really affect me too much. And I said something to him like, "Man, when both of my kids are in first grade, I'm essentially going to get what was a $3,000 payment, right? I'm going to get that $3,000 back, right? So 3,000 times 12 is a $36,000 a year raise that I'm going to get when my kids just go to first grade.
Wow.
And that's, for some people in the country, 36 grand is life changing money. I'm acknowledging that. I understand that. And this mother effer, his first response is, yeah, just imagine if you did that and you paid off your mortgage, you would essentially get a 60 something thousand dollar a year raise.
Dude.
Like, how much better if I told you today that you could do this job for 2 years for free, right? If I told you can do a job for 2 years for free, and then at the end of those 2 years, I would pay you 60 grand a year to do nothing, right? Who wouldn't take that deal?
Sign me up.
Essentially, that's what paying off your mortgage is if it's low enough. Like, I could grind, live super frugal. I paid off $189,000 worth of student loan debt in 3 years. Like, that's essentially what my mortgage is. I could dedicate my life for the next 3 years. And by the time 3 years came, I could have no mortgage and my kids could be in first grade, and I could get $60,000 in my pocket every year, and I wouldn't have to contribute any more money to my mortgage. So I'd essentially have to do nothing after that, and it would just be $60,000. Like, and it's crazy, Jay. I say this to myself, and I'm like, then this is the thing that keeps me up at night. It's like, shit, I need to pay off my mortgage. But then I go back and I'm like, all right, maybe do I not? And I mean, to wrap up the whole mortgage thing, because I'm on a little bit of a rant. I have the money liquid to pay off my mortgage. I like it invested, but I will say, if I wanted to like take a shot and I wanted to go YouTube or podcast or consulting or public speaking, if I wanted to do anything besides teaching, if I wanted to give up my W-2 job, I think the number one thing I would have to do, and if I didn't, I think I'd be being reckless, would be to pay off my mortgage. Not because of interest, not because of the debt, but just because every single month right now, I need to pay $2,800 a month to my mortgage or whatever it is. If I didn't have to pay that, I can make my living expenses at a pizzeria.
Yep.
I can make
Same.
I can work at Home Depot. I'm gonna have to work 40 hours a week, and it's gonna suck if all my other side businesses and everything failed. But I think when we talk to people about paying off mortgages, it's all roads lead to real estate, right? How do we always end up talking about this?
Hmm.
And I know that you've made videos, and it's there's no one video to make because there's so many reasons to pay it off, and there's so many reasons not to.
I think it ultimately comes down to a decision you have to make with yourself and with your wife if you're, out there and you're married.
If you
And
didn't if you didn't take the shot with YouTube, if you loved your engineering job, would you have paid off your mortgage?
I probably would have, dude.
Really?
Yeah,
It wasn't a go full time on YouTube
I mean,
decision.
100% was because of that. But I mean, Lindsay and I talked about paying off our mortgage before I even thought about like leaving my job, like this was back in Kansas City days.
But are you talking in hindsight now, like knowing what I know now, I would definitely pay it off even if I had a job? Or
No,
you're
I'm
saying
saying
even
if,
then?
yeah, I mean, we had the conversations before I was even a real big finance guy. I
Big
mean,
shot, big shot
well,
finance
before what I mean
guy.
by that is what I knew about finances, like I even told
Look at
Lindsay,
the big guy, JJ Buckner. Big
oh my
guy, big
God,
finance guy.
Jesus Christ. No, what I was saying is when we were talking about buying a home, I even told Lindsay, like when we were in our first apartment together, I was like, man, it'd be cool to like not have to pay a mortgage for 30 years, wouldn't it? She's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, well, can we just pay it off fast? Because we were during that time we were paying off our student loans. And we got them suckers paid off pretty quick because we were budgeting every single dollar to pay all, put all of our extra money towards it. And I told her when we were talking, I was like, well, when we buy a house, we can do the same thing. Buy a little bit cheaper house and just pay the damn thing off.
If you were my consultant, would you tell me to pay it off? If I told you this, if I said, JJ, I have $160,000 left on my mortgage, and in my bank, not invested, in my bank, I have, what did I just tell you was left on my mortgage? 160.
Yeah.
If I have 160 left, I have $200,000 in the bank.
Okay.
Should I pay off my mortgage tomorrow? What would you say?
And
you know my whole life story.
Knowing you.
And my interest rate is 2.35.
I'd probably pay it off. I would. I would sign the check tomorrow. No, honestly, hang on.
But now, as the real estate investor in you think it's worth me crushing $160,000 worth of liquidity?
Hang on, before you say anything, because I don't want
you just said you'd pay. You said
no. Listen, I corrected myself. I said, hang on. There's a point I want to make. What I was going to say is I would take a decent amount of chunk of whatever cash you have, and I would apply that to the mortgage.
What's that amount?
If you have 160 on your mortgage, say 50 to 80 grand.
Cut it in half.
Yeah. I'd say 50, 80 grand. I'd go pay it towards the mortgage right away. Now you have a smaller number. You have, for you, like, oh, I can knock out another 80 grand easy, quick. So you look at this number every single month. I'll tell you this too, man, because I did the same thing when I was still making good money, but still trying to pay off the mortgage, is I was still having those thoughts of like, do we really want to go out and spend $158 out tonight to go out to eat and grab some cocktails or whatever? Or do I just save that money and know it's going to go towards the mortgage at the end of the month?
I don't even go out. Like, the only reason I'm saying so liquid is because I want it, because real estate. I want, and everyone tells me I need to be a real estate investor.
You do. I mean, you have to get own real estate, dude. So,
so like,
this is what I would say though.
5 years, if this was Brad 5 years ago, before I knew the glories and the pressures of real estate, I'd pay off my mortgage. But everyone's like, you need to wait for the bubble to pop, and then you could buy all the properties. And
but think about this though, dude. If your mortgage is paid off, you know how fast I can build up cash right now? Like, I can build up cash. So that's what we're doing right now. Lindsay and I have a goal. We have a goal set of where we want our cash in our account to be before we leave Portland. And that's just for a couple things coming up for us. So we had a first goal before we left Jacksonville. I was like, okay, if we can get to this number, I'll feel really good. Well, we're already there. We've already hit it, and we're only halfway through Portland. So now I'm like, okay, well, this next number, if we can get to this one, and then we are set for a while. And that's for a couple of reasons. For, if Lindsay doesn't find work for a while, if my stuff's, dying off on YouTube and I'm not making much money, like, we have this cash reserve sitting there, but it's also sitting there for if I find a smoking hot deal in real estate. You know what I mean? So I can pull,
Isn't it crazy how when we were in high school, we were thinking about smoking hot chicks, and now we're thinking about smoking hot real estate deals. Imagine you hanging out with your boys like, yeah, do you see on Friday that smoking hot real estate deal that came across the way?
You know what's funny though, dude, is like, I think that's now, like, I almost think that is, I wouldn't be shocked if I heard either high schoolers now or like high schoolers 10 years from now talking about that, because it is starting to be like,
they do
cool to own real estate. Like, if there was a 16-year-old kid in our high school who was like, hey, I own like 2 properties, he'd be like the coolest dude in school.
Well, I can tell you because I have them, and I have really bright, smart, well-off kids. I think they're more they're not at the real estate spot. Yes, unless their parents do, which
Right.
a
Right.
lot of my kids, like I said, I'm in a very, very well off district, and my kids, their parents have real estate. But I have more kids now than 10 years ago that are interested in the markets and
Hmm.
investing and maybe day trading a little. I'm sure apps like, the Webull and stuff like that really helped out. But yeah, no, the kids are definitely thinking about it younger. But they still like smoking hot chicks
No, for
And-
sure.
and smoking handsome dudes.
Yeah. You're in high school.
Or both. It's 2022, bro.
yeah.
You can you can get
Whatever
your
floats your
hand,
boat,
you
man.
can get your hand in whatever you want these days.
Yeah.
So should I pay off my mortgage?
So what I would do is I would write an $80,000 check tomorrow, because I would also motivate you to be like, okay, I'm committed now. I just dropped 80 grand on my mortgage.
Yeah, but then what happens next week when you call me and there's like, yo, there's a property, and I'm like, man, I was good for that money last week, but I just paid off my mortgage. You'd be pissed
what-
off. You'd be
what
like, come
prop-
on, man.